I've been using these videos to teach about boundaries in marriage. We got here after talking about communication. If you remember, we're addressing the situation where one member of the couple doesn't want to work on the relationship. So now we're going through the 10 laws of boundaries in marriage. Law number 2 is the law of responsibility. Cloud and Townsend summarize it by saying that as couples we are responsible to each other but not for each other. The Bible deals with this issue by giving us 2 unique commands in Galatians 6. Galatians 6:2 tells us to bear one another's burdens, and Galatians 6:5 instructs each to bear his own load. The difference is in that verse 2, the Greek word refers to a heavy burden, while in verse 5, the Greek word refers to daily responsibilities. How does that apply in a marriage? Well, as married individuals, we're in a good position to help our spouse if or when they have difficult things to bear. For example, if your wife is grieving the loss of a sibling, you can help her carry that grief by being there for her. If your husband was passed over for a much-expected promotion, you can listen to him without offering suggestions. Those are examples of bearing the heavy burdens of another, Galatians 6:2. But we all have daily responsibilities that are ours to carry, so the husband who does not love his wife is neglecting the daily responsibility he has taken on by being a husband. In this case, he's not bearing his own load, Galatians 6:5. Or a wife might feel like she needs to make her grumpy husband happy. This is a problem because ultimately his mood is his own daily responsibility. Law number 3, the law of power. This law helps us to understand what we have power over and what we don't. We can't control the actions and attitudes of anyone else. For example, it might be our greatest desire to make our husbands spend responsibly, quit drinking, etc., but we can't. So what do we have power over? Well, to a good extent, our own actions and attitudes. We also have the power to repent of our sinful ways, as well as to confess them and even make amends to those that we've hurt. We also have the power to ask God for help to change. For example, if you're tired of how your wife regularly puts you down, you could kindly tell her that. But in the same conversation, you can ask her if you're doing things that are hurtful to her. This is consistent with what Jesus says when he tells us to take the log out of our own eye before we try to take a speck out of someone else's. Your attitude of being willing to change might help your wife to be willing as well. We can also influence our spouse. Say you've repeatedly asked your husband to check with you before purchasing items of over $100, and say he consistently doesn't. After clearly communicating your intent and giving your husband space to change, an appropriate response might be to take steps to separate your finances. The law of respect is next. If we want others to respect our boundaries, we need to respect theirs. In marriage, this means honoring the choices our spouse makes, choices that might be different than ours. Here's an example. Early in our marriage, my wife and I would have conflict around household chores. I was willing to help, but I would often want to do things the way I'd done them as a bachelor. My wife would want them done the way she was used to doing them. During a discussion about a particular issue, I don't even remember what, I told her, just because your family does it this way doesn't make it right. I just checked. The Boundaries in Marriage book was written in 1999, and I'm sure that this discussion happened before then. But my wife didn't need the book to know that it was a good idea to honor that boundary of mine. Because she honored my boundary there and many other times, it was easier for me to honor her boundaries. We'll continue with the law of motivation next time. Thanks for watching.